This is Emily Waldorf. Emily Waldorf was denied care for a risky miscarriage due to Arkansas's abortion ban. Even after she met with the hospital CEO and even called the governor's office and got a lawyer. Medical standards say it's necessary for doctors to offer abortion. Women have died without it, but in states with bans, lawyers often decide if parents get care. September 2024, Emily Waldorf, preschooler, found her curled up on the bathroom floor. Waldorf had felt a strange pressure building inside of her during the shower, like a balloon bulging. And now she was bleeding. Waldorf was 17 weeks pregnant. She and her husband, Justin, dropped their daughter off at grandparents' house and rushed to the Washington Regional Hospital in Fayetteville, Arkansas, where Waldorf worked as an acute physical therapist. Well, that's nice. I mean, you work there, you would think you'd get the help you need, right? The doctor pointed to her amniotic sac funneling into her dilated cervix, and you could see her tiny daughter's foot dipping out. They informed her that her body was going to miscarry. 3 doctors gathered and told the couple that the longer Waldorf's cervix remained open and her uterus exposed to bacteria, the higher her risk of developing a life-threatening infection. The standard of care, they explained, would be to empty her womb quickly. I wonder what that procedure is. But they couldn't do that, one doctor said apologetically, sighing deeply. The baby still had a detectable heartbeat, and stopping it would run afoul of the state abortion ban that snapped into place after the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade in 2022. Violations carried penalties up to $100,000 in fines, 10 years in prison. They needed to wait until Waldorf went into labor on her own or showed signs of a dangerous infection, or until the fetal heartbeat ended. Our hands are tied behind our backs, the doctor said. Tell your friends to vote differently. By the way, these are the notes she took in her own journal. She started carrying a journal and documenting every conversation, every interaction with hospital staff, with lawyers, with everybody. I wonder what that phrase, tell your friends to vote differently, I wonder what that meant. Oh, this explains it. Emily Waldorf was raised Baptist in a Republican family. And as you can see, she's white. I mean, what other description do you need? Waldorf struggled to understand that what the doctors were saying as waves of grief hit her. How can an abortion ban aimed at women who wanted to end their pregnancies keep doctors from helping a woman who didn't? Is this a serious question? You've got to be kidding me. An abortion ban does not give a 5-fingered flying Kentucky Fried fuck which one you are, or you want to keep the baby or you don't. It doesn't matter. That's how bans work. Waldorf didn't oppose abortion. Well, yeah. But she never considered that the law could apply to her. Her father was a doctor. This was the hospital where she had worked for the past 6 years. The OBGYN team treating her had delivered her daughter, and some of them lived blocks from her parents' house. She was a highly educated 38-year-old woman with connections to the governor. Connections to the governor. Write that down. Put an asterisk right next to that. As she lay in a hospital bed, worried that infection could enter her uterus at any moment. She finally understood that the ban now applied to anyone losing a baby. You are 38, highly educated, you are in the medical field. How the flying fuck could you not know that a ban would also apply to you? I'm uneducated, dumb as shit, and could figure that out. Emily. I swear to fuck. I read, and the angrier I get. Trapped in medical limbo, she took a nurse's friend's advice and began writing everything down. Okay, that's the journal. She was miscarrying at hospitals. Physicians, lawmakers, and medical boards around the country were being confronted with the reality that the bans, designed to be as strict and punitive as possible, were causing preventable harm and even deaths. Who could have warned you of this, Emily? And Republicans? Trump voters? Who could have warned you? Who warned you that this was happening? Black women have been banging the drums. They've been, literally verbally shaking us, saying, hey, this is going to affect everybody, not just us. Yet, even as more of these cases stacked up, there was no coordination between the states to protect women. Each state, each woman seemed to be operating in a vacuum, and Waldorf would find she was in it alone. Yeah. Just like all the other women before you. One of the doctors advised Waldorf to go home and told her what to expect. At any moment, she could start bleeding heavily and go into labor. It might happen while she was going to the bathroom or playing on the floor with her daughter. That's nice. That's nice. Imagine you're playing with your preschooler and then mommy just starts hemorrhaging, bleeding. Imagine the shock that you're going to put your little daughter through. When the baby started to emerge, the doctor said Waldorf shouldn't pull too hard or it could the baby's head off. She would need to cut the umbilical cord herself and return to the hospital for care in a diaper, her fetus wrapped in a towel and the cord hanging between her legs. What kind of Frankenstein horror fuck is this? What is this fucking ghoulish? Waldorf didn't want her daughter or herself to have those memories inside their home, so she begged to stay at the hospital, and the doctors agreed. Must be nice to be able to have that option. Must be nice to have awesome insurance. It must be nice to have connections at the hospital that you work at. No one could predict when the ordeal would be over. Waldorf settled into a small hospital room, her husband glued to the vinyl couch beside her, both reeling from the impending loss of what would have been their second daughter. The pregnancy had been far enough along to start getting their 4-year-old daughter excited about decorating a nursery, family of 4 camping trips, and what it would mean to become a big sister. Now they had to engage in the morbid ritual of waiting for the dream to die. Doctors and nurses with Doppler machines and ultrasounds kept showing up, forcing them to hear the heartbeat and see the movement of a tiny body. Oh, look, Large said during one of the ultrasounds. I'm assuming that's one of the staff. She's opening and closing her mouth. Just shut the fuck up. Just shut the fuck up. Emily later wrote in her journal, "My body failed a baby." Waldorf's job treating critical patients in the intensive care unit had taught her to compartmentalize to stay cool under pressure, but as the days bled together, her resolve turned to panic when she discovered outcomes she had not considered. She discovered one outcome she had not considered. Amazing. Amazing. Scrolling through social media on her third night, a headline caught her eye. Quote, abortion bans have delayed emergency medical care. In Georgia, experts say this mother's death was preventable. Amber Thurman. I think I do remember that story. Waldorf thinks to herself, oh my God, it isn't me, but she died. Thurman left behind a 6-year-old son. Almost exactly 3 years before Waldorf showed up at Washington Regional in urgent need of care, a 28-year-old woman named Jocelyn Barnica arrived at the Houston emergency room with the same condition. She, too, was 17 weeks pregnant. The fetus head was pressed up against her dilated cervix, and a miscarriage was, according to her medical record, inevitable. When her husband rushed from work to her side, she relayed what she said the medical team had told her, including delivery or emptying her uterus would be a crime. They had to wait until there was no heartbeat. Yeah. Notice how they don't differentiate. Either the mother's heartbeat or the fetus's heartbeat. It's all the same to them, I guess. Dr. Allison Golding, a maternal fetal medicine specialist in Texas, says this is basic obstetrics. Everyone should know that you have to provide an abortion in these settings or women can die. For 40 hours, Barnica waited in the hospital for the heartbeat to stop, with her cervix exposed to bacteria. She died 3 days after she delivered. ProPublica reported in 2024 the cause was a deadly infection. The hospital declined to comment on Barnica's case, but said our responsibility is to be in compliance with applicable state and federal laws and regulations, and physicians exercise their independent judgment. The doctors involved did not respond or request for comment. Her death and those of 6 other women in 3 states over the next 3 years brought into sharp focus the consequences of the bans, because the law's exceptions for medical emergencies are vague and have rarely been tested in court. Liability-conscious hospital administrators, lawyers, and doctors have sometimes put legal concerns above their patients' well-being. Since its ban took effect, not one person has been granted a medically necessary abortion. The state's Republican lawmakers and officials have repeatedly shot down attempts to broaden the law's exceptions. And when advocates tried to launch a ballot initiative to let voters weigh in, Republicans blocked it over a paperwork error and created restrictions to make those initiatives harder to file. The doctors and Democrats fighting for reform have been doing so without essential knowledge that could help make their case. Get the fuck out of here. Going back to Emily Waldorf. On her 4th morning in the hospital, Waldorf was sitting on the toilet when she felt something heavy fall, and there was so much blood she couldn't see what it was. She thought it was the baby, but a nurse confirmed it was a blood clot, 3 inches across. Waldorf's water had broken. All morning, she watched the amniotic fluid drain out of her. Now there was virtually no chance the fetus lungs would develop to reach the edge of viability in 7 weeks. There was only the risk of infection growing every passing hour. She was convinced that this meant the doctors would finally have to induce her to avoid an infection. But after confirming that her fetus still had heart tones, the OBGYN on duty said she couldn't induce yet. First, she'd need to consult the hospital's risk management team. Waldorf had become a liability. Smith returned about 2 hours later and told her that she had two options. She could remain under observation at the hospital, or she could get into her car and drive nearly 4 hours to Kansas, a state with no abortion ban where doctors could induce her. The hospitals could not authorize a transfer or arrange to send her in an ambulance, and it offered no explanation for why. We know why. Since there was still a heartbeat and no signs of maternal infection, we cannot proceed with induction of labor. Every hour, she risked infection. Waldorf's sister, Elizabeth Rowe, had almost died of hemorrhaging during childbirth, so the family felt an hours-long drive to Kansas through rural roads without medical support was not an option. Waldorf's family and friends were shocked that she was running into so many obstacles. Her father, a gastroenterologist named Kenneth Rogers, was baffled. You don't sit around and wait for somebody to become septic. You do whatever it takes to prevent them from becoming septic. If I don't do what's medically indicated in a potentially life-threatening situation, then I am liable for neglect. Why isn't this the same thing? Really, Kenneth? Really? You don't know why this is you don't know how abortion bans work? Her mother and stepfather were also outraged. Bear in mind, Emily Waldorf has connections to the governor. It's inhumane. I'm pro-life, but for the mother. Her husband. If I took my dog to a vet and it had this problem, the dog would get better treatment. You're almost getting it, Paul. You're almost getting it. Dogs get better treatment in Arkansas than your women. And it doesn't matter if you are personal friends with the governor of Texas. Who's the governor of governor of Arkansas? Strike that. Governor of Arkansas. Who is the governor of Arkansas? Sarah Huckabee Sanders. And you're baffled. These are the very same people you voted for. People like you, people that look just like you, voted in favor of this shit. You voted in favor of a tyrannical government that puts your life at risk. And the more I read this article, the more pissed off I am. And the less empathy I have for Emily Waldorf. This horror show continues. Waldorf asks, "Are they going to let me die?" "Yeah, Emily, they're going to let you die. And they're going to look aggrieved and sorrowful as they look down at your corpse. They don't give a fuck about you. And obviously, you didn't give a fuck about your fellow women in your state." Her sister says, "That's crazy. We're in a hospital. People come to the hospital for them to save your life, not let you die." Well, when you vote for politicians that don't have a flying fucking brain cell in their head, they've got a bunch of religious dogma, they've got a Bible on their hand and a head full of nonsense, what are you shocked about? They're the ones who are going to pass. You knew what you were signing up for. You guys are too educated to be this stupid and ignorant. It just goes on. It goes on about Ohio, Texas. We don't have time to. It's just interviews with different staff. Many of them are declining to comment, of course. An OBGYN in Little Rock, Arkansas, said she and her colleagues see cases like Waldorf's often. They're always excruciating. Yeah, Little Rock. I wonder what's in Little Rock. Probably, I would guess, a lot of poor people. Yeah, it happens more often. And only when it happens to you does it mean anything. Oh, my eyes are open now. Oh my gosh, this is terrible. Her patients often beg and panic, but none have had the resources to travel to another state for care. Doctors at her hospital are left to negotiate amongst themselves over what counts as sick enough for them to act. Here's a question they ask. What organs need to fail? What things need to happen that pushes us over the edge? Not, oh my gosh, we got to deal with this situation. We don't care. It needs to be taken care of. We need to wait for organ failure. Thank fuck we're at the end. Many hospitals and doctors remain paralyzed, experts say, even though none of them have been prosecuted for treating a miscarriage with a procedure that would be considered an abortion. It's been 5 years and people are still like, oh, I don't know what we can do. A doctor in Texas never stopped providing abortions for women facing miscarriages. That's willful ignorance at this point. Okay. That's one. Her sister starts calling up private ambulance companies, but they would not agree to drive Waldorf because they considered her condition unstable. The cost of a medvac helicopter. Imagine being able to make these kinds of calls because you have the kind of resources to be able to do this. How many poor people go into hospitals and they don't get this option? That it doesn't even cross their mind because it's not even in the realm of possibility. And then it struck her, oh, I know, let's call Sarah. The family didn't personally know Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders, but in their small-town Baptist circles, they felt only a degree away. Waldorf had gone to the same college 4 years behind and joined the same sorority, known as a social club, at Ouachita Baptist University. Yep. They had friends whose cousins had been in the governor's wedding or had gone on vacation with her. One of those friends had even invited Waldorf to stay at a historic 8-room bed and breakfast with the governor during Ouachita's annual alumni event in 2 weeks' time. Rowe reached an aide in the governor's office around 9:27 a.m. And according to Waldorf's journal, she laid it on thick, telling the aide about the connections Waldorf and Sanders shared. Yeah, they tried everything. Oh, my goodness, we are good friends with the governor, and we just need to get a hold of the governor. And the aide's like, we recommend you seek legal advice. Rowe answered, this is an emergency. We need help now. The aide's reply, according to Rowe, what is it you expect the governor's office to do? Exactly. These are Republican, fundamentalist, Christian nationalists. What do you expect them to do? They do nothing but benefit themselves and their direct circle and sphere of influence, and their rich donors. They don't give a goddamn fuck about you. What did you expect the governor to do? They argued about the law. They tried to see if there's a loophole around the Arkansas law. The aide offered to learn more and call back, but the family says it never received another call. Of course. The governor does not stand to benefit from you. You are a walking, talking liability for the governor. The governor wants nothing to do with you. So it's just round and round and round. I'm done. I'm done. I'm done with this article. I really wanted to feel empathy. When I first clicked on this article, I felt sympathy and empathy. And the more I read this article, the more pissed off I am. No, I do not feel sorry for Emily Waldorf. Not one bit. You know who I feel sorry for? You know who I feel empathy for? I feel sorry for the black woman who is forced to sit in a goddamn wheelchair and answer stupid, benign questions while she's giving birth and screaming in pain. While that white nurse, that nurse ratchet, nasty ass motherfucker, kept her in a wheelchair asking her stupid ass questions. Or how about that other black woman who was turned away from a Catholic run hospital? Okay? She was turned away. And as they're driving to another hospital, she delivers right in the minivan. That is who I feel empathy for. Fuck these people. Sick to fucking death. They caused this problem in the first place, and they never thought the consequences of their vote would ever reach them. That is the problem. And the rest of us have to suffer for it. It just gets beyond bizarre. If you want to read this article, it's from ProPublica. She faced a life-threatening miscarriage under Arkansas abortion ban. Even calls to the governor's office didn't help. That's the article. If you want to read it, go ahead. I'm done. I am disconnected from this article now. And this is what we have to face, everyday people. And the 92% who voted against this, who warned us that this was happening, the 92% of black women in this country who voted the correct way and voted to stop this, those are the people who have my empathy. I got nothing. Thanks for listening to me rant.